りない?
The story begins with a boy named Mumi Makoto, a boy whose luck seems to take him to strange new worlds instead of fun adventures with cute girls. One ordinary day, after school, Mumi is unexpectedly called upon by the moon god, Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi reveals that Mumi must sign a contract and journey to another world, just like his parents did before him. In their deal with a goddess, they promise to one day offer their most precious possession, Mumi himself. Mumi, wanting to protect his sisters from being taken instead, agrees to go. Tsukuyomi grants Mumi as much power as possible to help him in this new world. Mumi is sent off with a warning about the problematic goddess he's about to meet. When he appears before her, she's instantly disgusted by his looks, deeming him too unattractive to be her world's hero, and decides to abandon Mumi at the world's edge with other lowly creatures. The goddess casts Mumi into the abyss. Mumi continues his fall, landing in a desolate wasteland. He wanders for 3 days, feeling lonely and lost, until he hears a girl's cries for help. Rushing towards the sound, Mumi finds a pig-like creature under attack by a two-headed monster. He leaps into action, surprising himself with his incredible strength when he effortlessly beheads the monster. The young girl, terrified by the grisly sight of the monster's remains, instinctively tried to flee. But Mumi Makoto gently stopped her and introduced himself. His ability to understand her language shocked her, and Mumi was equally taken aback to find himself conversing with a pig-like creature. Trying to ease her fears, he assured her of his good intentions. The girl, Emma, explained she was on her way to the Divine Mountain to offer herself as a sacrifice to a deity named Shin. Her village had been plagued by a mysterious fog for months, ruining their crops. But every time someone was offered to Shin, the fog would mysteriously lift. Before going through with this sacrifice, she wanted to express her gratitude to Mumi for saving her, and invited him back to her home. During dinner with Emma's brothers, Mumi discovered that magic was a commonplace skill in this world. Intrigued, he asked Emma to teach him. Emma began with a basic fire magic lesson, expecting it to be a challenge for the newcomer. To everyone's surprise, Mumi mastered the technique instantly, leading them to believe he possessed a high level of magical ability. However, when they checked, his level was merely 1, leaving everyone baffled. Undeterred, Emma continued Mumi's magical education. The following day, Mumi ventured out, determined to find a way to save Emma from her fate. Remembering his archery skills from school, he cleverly transformed fire into a bow and arrow. With a well-aimed shot, he destroyed the gate leading to the mountain, unintentionally injuring several men in the process. It turned out these men were using Shin's name to intimidate the orcs. But Mumi's attack on Shin's home triggered the creature's rage. A red fog descended, and a colossal dragon emerged, attacking Mumi relentlessly. Despite the thick mist obstructing his vision, Mumi's agility allowed him to dodge every attack. He then unveiled a newfound ability to sense the dragon's movements, enabling him to continue evading the onslaught. Mumi launched a fierce counterattack, bombarding the dragon with fireballs. The creature, taken aback by Mumi's overwhelming power, wondered how he could possess such strength. Mumi landed a powerful punch, knocking the dragon to the ground. But as Mumi lowered his guard, the dragon unleashed its magical gaze, trapping him in an illusion. Mumi found himself back in his school's archery club, talking to his crush, Nikumi. In this illusion, she confessed her love and asked him on a date, doubting its reality due to his perceived lack of attractiveness. Mumi realized it was all a trick, and used his power to shatter the illusion. He understood now that the power Tsukuyomi had granted him allowed him to manipulate his surroundings. He had used it to sense Shin through the fog earlier, and now he channeled it to strengthen his fists, breaking free from the illusion. Prepared to face the dragon once more, Mumi was surprised to find that the creature no longer saw him as an enemy. Impressed by his immense power and intrigued by the glimpses she saw of his memories from another world, Shin, the mighty dragon, proposed a contract to Mumi. She desired to become his companion, believing it would be mutually beneficial. Initially hesitant, Mumi eventually agreed, and the dragon initiated a strange ritual. Magical energy enveloped them as Shin attempted to form a balanced contract. However, Mumi's overwhelming power tipped the scales, making him the master and transforming Shin into a human. This change in appearance was a consequence of the contract, where the weaker being takes on the form of the stronger, but the transformation went beyond appearance. Shin revealed to Mumi her control over a demi-plane, a separate dimension accessible through mist gates she could open. Stepping through a gate, they found themselves in a lush, fertile field. Much to Shin's astonishment, the demi-plane, once a dark and empty abyss, had been revitalized by Mumi's influence. It even bore fruits that he recognized from Earth. To grasp the scale of this transformation, Mumi used his new Kai ability to scan the demi-plane, discovering its vastness, limited only by the mist wall. Realizing that the demi-plane was a realm where Shin held absolute dominion, Mumi deduced that the meddling goddess couldn't interfere with his life there. This sparked an idea. He would build his own city within this safe haven. As he pondered this, Mumi remembered his original purpose in coming to the mountain, to address the issue of Shin supposedly taking orcs as sacrifices. It turned out to be a misunderstanding, as Shin had nothing to do with it. Eager to clarify, they exited the demi-plane, only to encounter Emma. Emma had come to dissuade Mumi from fighting Shin, but was shocked to find the great dragon standing beside him, now in human form. A celebratory feast was held in the village, revealing the truth about the sacrifices. Emma expressed her heartfelt gratitude to Mumi for saving their village. The village elder, wanting to repay Mumi, accepted Shin's suggestion for the orcs to relocate to the demi-plane. By the next day, the orcs, eager to return Mumi's kindness, had packed their belongings, ready to move. Mumi hesitated to uproot them so abruptly, but their unwavering loyalty and Shin's assurances of the demi-plane's safety convinced him. Shin even created a miniature version of herself to watch over the orcs. With that, Mumi gave his approval, and construction of the new town began. While the orcs busied themselves, Mumi practiced his magic, and Shin indulged in his memories of historical dramas. However, Mumi grew weary of Shin constantly delving into his mind. Shin, acknowledging the inconvenience for him, promised to find a way to build a television to play his memories instead. While she was away, Mumi stumbled upon some of the memories Shin had left open and began to miss his family. Since his parents were originally from this world, he hoped to uncover clues about their past lives here. Meanwhile, in a nearby forest, a dwarf was fleeing for his life from a giant spider monster. Mumi, wandering through the demi-plane, encountered some orcs struggling to cut down a massive tree they intended to use for building him a house. Eager to help, Mumi used his Kai ability to enhance his strength, effortlessly felling the tree and lifting it with ease. He also discovered his ability to heal wounds without expending any mana, a gift from Tsukuyomi that he deeply appreciated. Unfortunately, this power didn't extend to healing his own injuries, but Mumi remained optimistic as long as he avoided getting hurt. Moments later, Shin returned to the demi-plane, accompanied by the wounded dwarf. She had encountered an old enemy while out and about, and the scent of blood from Mumi's injured hand had drawn the creature into the demi-plane. Shin decided to let Mumi handle this threat. The creature was a spider monster cursed with an insatiable hunger, devouring anything in its path. Mumi initiated his attack using fire magic to sever one of its legs. However, the monster's regeneration was so potent that it recovered almost instantly and continued its assault. Mumi managed to inflict damage, but the creature's relentless healing made the fight seem endless. He persisted, launching fire spears, but was caught off guard and impaled by the spider's leg. This only fueled his anger. Mumi unleashed his full power, unleashing a barrage of fire blasts followed by an incredibly destructive water arrow. After this impressive display of power, he collapsed from exhaustion. The tenacious spider monster, though still capable of regeneration, had developed a strange fondness for Mumi after their exhilarating battle. Shin, observing this, proposed an unexpected solution. The spider would become one of Mumi's servants through a contract. By the time Mumi awoke, he found another girl beside him. This new companion explained she was the very spider he had fought, now transformed into a human due to a contract formed while he was unconscious. Mumi was taken aback, not realizing contracts could be formed without the explicit consent of both parties. When Shin entered, Mumi immediately confronted her for making decisions on his behalf. However, she reasoned that it was a better alternative than having a giant spider constantly lurking around him. The dwarf, saved from the monster's clutches, introduced himself as Bayon, and expressed his deep gratitude to Mumi for ridding his village of the terror that had plagued them. He then made a heartfelt request to relocate his people permanently to Shin's demi-plane, a haven of safety and tranquility. Mumi readily agreed, eager to offer sanctuary to those in need. But Shin, ever cautious, intervened and stated that while Bayon and his people were welcome, they had to meet certain conditions. These included supplying weapons and acknowledging Mumi as the lord of their new land. Bayon was hesitant at first, but Shin offered 2 of her precious dragon scales as a gesture of goodwill, hoping to persuade his people. The next day, as Mumi ventured out into the vast expanse of the demi-plane, attempting to trace his parents' footsteps and locate human settlements, Shin urgently summoned him back to the hut. She and the Spider Girl, now his servant, needed new names since the citizens of the demi-plane didn't know how to address them. Mumi was initially annoyed at being called back for such a seemingly trivial matter, but Shin and the Spider Girl were insistent. After a moment of thought, Mumi decided to name Shin Tomo, after a legendary female samurai known for her strength and valor. The Spider Girl was given the name Mio. Later that day, a grand gathering of all demi-plane citizens was held, where Mumi was astonished by the diverse array of new species that had taken up residence in the once desolate realm. Tomo and Mio introduced themselves with their new names and declared that Mumi should be addressed with the respect befitting his position, either as master or lord. While Mumi found this excessive, he eventually settled on the more modest title of young master. At the gathering, Bayon introduced Mumi to his village chief, Elysid. Elysid was puzzled by Mumi's atypical human appearance, and inquired whether the goddess had given him a mission. Offended by the implication, Mumi firmly stated that he would never accept a mission from the goddess after she had ridiculed and abandoned him. Elysid was relieved to hear this, as the goddess's views often clashed with his people's. Tomo then introduced a fascinating species known as the mist lizards, her loyal followers possessing both air and water attributes. Mio followed suit, introducing her own devoted followers, the Ali, whose insatiable hunger had been satiated by consuming some of Mumi's blood and mana. After a brief but inspiring speech to the citizens, Mumi set off to explore the human village he had spotted earlier. As he walked, he noticed a human girl who, upon seeing him, was instantly frightened and ran away. Mumi continued towards the village, puzzled by her reaction. Upon reaching the village, he was met with unexpected hostility. The villagers, speaking a language he couldn't understand, surrounded him with weapons drawn and chased him away. Mumi realized with dismay that the goddess's gift of languages had excluded human speech. Returning to the hut, Mumi was deeply upset by his inability to communicate with other humans. He reasoned that they wouldn't attack without cause, so he assumed his appearance was the reason for their aggression. However, Tomo offered a different explanation. It was the immense mana he exuded that frightened them. His power made him appear as multiple demon kings to the villagers. Emma suggested that Mumi could suppress his mana by visualizing a lid over it. He tried, but the decrease was minimal. Determined, Mumi vowed to learn the common language and find a way to control his mana, so he could integrate with the humans and avoid further conflict. The receptionist, though impressed by Mumi's lavish attire, found his masked appearance suspicious. Mumi and Tomo quickly concocted a story, claiming the mask was a curse and Mumi was unable to speak. The receptionist then explained the adventurer ranking system, starting at E rank and rising through quest completion. Mio and Tomo were given measuring scrolls to assess their levels. To everyone's astonishment, Tomo's level was revealed to be 1320, while Mio's was a staggering 1500. Meanwhile, Mumi was embarrassed to discover he remained at level 1. Inquiring about a room for the night, they were quoted an exorbitant price of 6 gold coins by the innkeeper. After a bit of persuasion from Tomo, the receptionist agreed to reduce the price to 2 gold. Later that evening, Mumi and Mio strolled through the village and encountered a distressed-looking girl alone at a late hour. Mumi, sensing something amiss, instructed Mio to handle the situation. Mio, however, surprised him by harshly scolding the girl. Mumi quickly intervened, reprimanding Mio for her rudeness, and gently asking the girl what troubled her. The girl, overcome with emotion, embraced Mumi, revealing her name as Ren, and explaining that her sister Toa had been missing for over a month. Meanwhile, Tomo stumbled upon a group of men attempting to raid their carriage. She engaged them in combat, finding their attacks laughably slow. Even while trying to hold back, her sword proved too sharp, accidentally slicing 2 of the attackers in half. The last man attempted to flee, but Tomo effortlessly intercepted and knocked him unconscious. Back at the inn, Mumi chastised Tomo for her excessive force. Upon removing the bandit's chest plate, they were surprised to discover it was a woman who started berating Tomo for not checking first. Ren, walking in on the commotion, witnessed Mumi speaking but heard only gibberish. Mumi, realizing Ren couldn't understand him, advised her to eat something and get some rest. Ren expressed her deep gratitude, even referring to him as her brother, and showed them a sketch of her missing sister Toa. The picture seemed to startle Mumi. Ren bid them good night, but outside she appeared conflicted. Examining the memories of the captured woman, Mumi discovered she was one of the thieves from the Adventurers Guild, and, more importantly, seemed to have a connection to Ren. Mumi's suspicion grew, and he shared his concerns with Tomo and Mio. The mystery surrounding Toa's disappearance deepened, and they wondered what role the thief played in it all. Determined to rescue her, he instructed Tomo and Mio to act swiftly. Mio questioned the urgency, but Mumi's serious expression convinced her. It was later revealed that Mumi's intense reaction stemmed from Toa's striking resemblance to his crush from his old world. Mio and Tomo discussed Mumi's sudden change in demeanor, wondering if he knew Ren's sister. Tomo dismissed the idea, claiming she had seen all of his memories, and that he knew no one else in this world. Mio, harboring a growing curiosity and affection for Mumi, was jealous of Tomo's intimate knowledge of his past. Tomo encouraged Mio to get to know him herself, but Mio was intimidated by his unusual appearance. Despite her reservations, they both agreed to expedite the rescue mission. Meanwhile, Mumi and Ren headed to the trading exchange, where Mumi assured her that Tomo and Mio were working to rescue her sister. In a flashback, we learned that Ren and Toa had fallen into debt while trying to become adventurers. Toa had been captured for failing to repay, while Ren managed to escape. Now, Toa was losing hope until Tomo and Mio arrived, using their magic to heal her and dissolve the locked door. As they prepared to leave, they were stopped by Melis, the leader of Zetsu's strongest adventurer group. Toa recognized him, while Mumi was surprised to have sold some of his demi-plane fruit for a hefty 500 gold coins, raising Ren's suspicions about his true identity. Back at the inn, Ren spotted a familiar face and ran off. Mumi, using his investigative kai, saw her meeting with the adventurers. Ren reported Mumi's profitable fruit sale, and the leader pressured her to steal it, claiming it would settle their debts. Ren was hesitant but ultimately agreed, thinking of her sister's plight. Melis, meanwhile, was perplexed by To's sudden mobility. We learned he was the group's leader and was suspicious of Tomo and Mio's high recorded levels. He invited them to join his group, promising riches, but they declined. Melis then insulted Mumi for being only level 1. Infuriating them, they attacked him, but he easily blocked their blows with a barrier Tomo recognized as the Coexist, realizing they were outmatched. Meanwhile, Ren grappled with her conscience, torn between her loyalty to Mumi and the desire to save her sister. The receptionist, about to dismiss Ren, was interrupted by Mumi, who stepped in to defend her as his friend. The man, recalling their previous encounter, immediately apologized, causing Ren to burst into tears at the unexpected display of kindness. Mumi's protectiveness towards her was evident. Melis, seeing this, ordered his men to attack. Tomo, however, effortlessly shattered the barrier and unleashed her fury, sending the men flying. She continued her rampage, even throwing them through the walls of other cells. Mio joined in, venting her frustration on Melis, and together, they demolished the entire building. Toei watched in disbelief, wondering if she was dreaming. Melis attempted to regain control by taking Toa hostage, but Tomo swiftly sent him flying once again. Both Tomo and Mio reveled in their victory, though they started arguing over who had contributed more to the destruction. Tomo decided to flaunt her swordsmanship by slicing through the town, while Mio, not to be outdone, showcased her own destructive abilities. The two continued their chaotic display until they finally returned to the inn. At the inn, the sisters were reunited, with To expressing her gratitude for their rescue. Mumi, meanwhile, couldn't help but notice Toa's striking resemblance to Nakumi, his crush from his previous world, except for the hair color. The exhausted girls quickly fell asleep, and Tomo expressed her satisfaction with the outcome. However, Mumi had other plans. He requested some of Mio's silk and used it to tie up both girls. While thanking them for saving Toa, he pointed out the extensive damage they had caused and launched them away, hoping they would reflect on their actions. In the aftermath of the village's destruction, the group, joined by the other adventurers who had been imprisoned by Melis, fled towards the nearby town of Saga. Along the way, they stopped at a guild to report the destruction of Zetsu, blaming it on monsters. They assured the receptionist that all the residents had escaped, a fact made possible by Tomo's ability to erase everyone's memories, except for Toa and Ren's. The receptionist questioned if the monsters were still present, and they confidently stated that Mio and Tomo, with their levels exceeding 1,000, had taken care of them. However, the receptionist remained skeptical, as such high levels were unheard of. It turned out that since Zetsu had been destroyed before their registration could be processed, they would need to re-register. Mumi, concerned that the rivalry between Tomo and Mio could lead to further trouble in Saga, shared a story about a samurai who embarked on a journey to grow stronger. This tale inspired Tomo, who sought Mumi's permission to train in the wilderness to improve her level. With Tomo's departure, Mio hoped to finally have Mumi's undivided attention. However, To's presence posed a potential threat to her desire. As the group continued their journey to Saga, Mumi sensed the presence of killer bees using his Kai ability, signaling a new challenge ahead. As the group continued their journey, they encountered a swarm of killer bees, a threat Mumi sensed with his Kai ability. He entrusted Mio with handling the situation, and she unleashed her wind blade, slicing through the bees with impressive precision. Everyone was amazed by her skills. Mumi urged the group to keep moving, but Toa insisted on extracting rare items from the slain bees. Mumi struggled to meet her gaze as she dissected the insects. Finding the process repulsive, they pressed on, encountering more monsters along the way, and Mumi decided to name their group the Kella Trading Company. Their travels led them to a rare species of monster called the Ruby Eyes. Mumi again turned to Mio for help, but the adventurers requested that she avoid damaging the valuable parts of the bees. Frustrated, Mio asked Mumi to handle it himself. With no other option, Mumi took up his bow and arrow, targeting the Ruby Eye's weak points with pinpoint accuracy. In an instant, he eliminated them all, leaving the group in awe of his remarkable abilities. However, their attention quickly shifted to collecting the loot, and they managed to gather 12 Ruby Eyes before reaching Saga. Upon visiting the Adventurers Guild, To thanked Mumi for helping her level up during their journey. Mumi felt a pang of sadness, realizing he was still at level 1 despite defeating countless beasts. His eyes fell upon an S-rank quest where a trading company sought Ruby Eyes. Recognizing an opportunity for easy money, he accepted the job. The group divided the spoils of their hunt, with Mumi keeping only the Ruby Eyes and a few other valuable materials, generously leaving the rest for the others. They bid each other farewell, but Mumi suggested a celebratory dinner before parting ways. They exchanged contact information through their license cards, which also served as communication devices and information portals. During dinner, the group bonded and learned more about each other. The adventurers introduced themselves: Louisa the Gunner, Hazel the Alchemy Meister, and Nana the Priest Knight. Nana playfully challenged Mumi to an arm wrestling match but was easily defeated by his superior strength. Toa then warned Mumi about the quest, mentioning rumors of misfortune befalling those who worked with the Rembrandt Trading Company. This made Mumi cautious, and he secretly inspected the Ruby Eyes before taking them to his room. Mio, sharing the room with Mumi, hoped for some and even considered sabotaging one of the beds to increase her chances. However, Mumi was oblivious to her intentions and immediately fell asleep. The next day, with Mumi's newfound ability to create gates, the group returned to the demi-plane. Their adventure in Saga was over, but new challenges awaited them in their sanctuary. Patrick revealed that a level 8 curse had afflicted his wife and daughters, and Ambrosia was their only hope. Mumi, moved by their plight, agreed to help. Upon returning to the demi-plane, he was welcomed by Tomo's clone and Emma, who excitedly informed him about the ongoing construction of a grand castle, modeled after his memories. Mumi was touched by their efforts and inquired about Tomo's progress, but there had been no contact since she embarked on her training journey. The dwarf chief eagerly escorted Mumi to their workshop, where he was presented with an array of meticulously crafted armor. Despite their craftsmanship, Mumi politely declined, explaining that, as an archer, he preferred lighter attire. The dwarves were heartbroken, but then Mumi's eyes lit up as he spotted a unique coat, also made by Rugu. Rugu revealed that the coat possessed the ability to absorb mana, though with a risk. It could potentially kill the wearer. Mumi, ever the risk-taker, donned the coat without hesitation and emerged unscathed. Rugu further explained that the coat could switch between defense and mobility modes, but it quickly reached its limit, unable to contain Mumi's overwhelming mana, and ripped apart. Mumi asked if it could be made more durable, and Rugu enthusiastically promised to create a version so powerful that it could withstand even a fatal blow, much to Mumi's slight worry about Rugu's intense motivation. Meanwhile, the Alki, having transformed into humans through magic, busied themselves collecting ingredients. Thanks to their unique ability to consume toxic substances without harm, they proved invaluable in gathering rare and potent components. The next morning, Mumi set off for the Rembrandt Trading Company with the Ruby Eyes. At the same time, an adventurer named Lime visited the guild, inquiring about the person who had taken on the quest. The receptionist informed him about Mumi, who was already meeting with Patrick, the company president. Unable to speak due to his supposed curse, Mumi communicated with Patrick using written bubbles. He introduced himself as a level 1 E-class adventurer, much to Patrick's initial disappointment. However, when Mumi revealed the Ruby Eyes, Patrick's skepticism turned into astonishment. After verifying their authenticity, Patrick was overwhelmed with gratitude and apologized for his earlier doubts. Mumi, curious about the reason behind the urgent need for the Ruby Eyes, learned that Patrick's wife and daughters were suffering from a devastating level 8 curse. The Ruby Eyes were a key ingredient in ambrosia, the only known cure for their affliction. Empathized with his desperation to cure his family, He assured Patrick that he knew an alchemy meister who could help create the medicine. But before Patrick could mention needing more ruby eyes, Mumi interrupted and offered him all the ones he had. Patrick and his servants were overjoyed and overwhelmed with gratitude. Patrick officially handed Mumi the job receipt and wished him luck with the registration exam at the Merchant Guild. This news shocked Mumi, as he was unaware of any such requirement. Upon reaching the Merchant Guild, the receptionist explained the process, which involved a written exam followed by a practical material gathering test. Failure meant a 6-month waiting period before reapplying. To prepare, Mumi purchased an expensive study guide, but instantly regretted it upon seeing its complex contents. The receptionist, thinking he found it challenging, reminded him of the test's near-impossible reputation. However, Mumi quickly requested to take the exam. Recognizing it as simple grade school math, he breezed through the written test in just 5 minutes, leaving the examiner astonished by his near-perfect score. Mumi couldn't help but ponder the state of education in this world. For the practical part of the exam, the examiner instructed Mumi to randomly select the item he needed to obtain. The examiner proudly declared that the chosen items were incredibly rare, and Mumi had to bring back something of equal or greater value within 3 days to pass. But Mumi, remembering the rare materials he had collected with the adventurers, confidently presented them as substitutes, much to the examiner's shock. Meanwhile, Tomo demonstrated her exceptional strength by defeating a massive crab monster and sharing a celebratory feast with her companions. However, their revelry was cut short when a demi-human delivered a message from Emma, revealing that Mio had entered the memory vault. Jealousy ignited within Tomo, and she rushed back to the demi-plane. Upon returning, Tomo questioned whether Mio had been exploring Mumi's memories, but Emma reassured her that Mio was only translating them. Tomo then inquired if anything had happened between Mio and Mumi in her absence, but Mio cleverly changed the subject. Later, at a restaurant, Mumi struggled to order food due to the language barrier. He accidentally ordered what he thought was lemonade, but it turned out to be something entirely different. Mumi longed for a familiar meal, while Lime, the adventurer, spied on him from afar. The surrounding patrons discussed the defeat of the killer bees and the giant crab monster, further piquing Lime's curiosity. Disappointed by his culinary mishap, Mumi returned to the demi-plane to enjoy his familiar fruits. However, he learned from Tomo's clone that the harvest had decreased due to unpredictable weather patterns. Mumi's mind raced as he considered the implications of this new challenge, and how it might affect the growing community in the demi-plane. Mumi shared his grand vision with Emma, the creation of the utopian city. It would be a hidden gem, discovered only by those who lost their way in the mist. The city would offer rare and valuable items to its guests, enhancing their reputation in the outside world. But their conversation was interrupted by a telepathic call, alerting Mumi that Mio was in danger. Confused, he sought information from a human ally, who explained that while translating memories, Mio had stumbled upon something she wanted to watch, but Tomo was preventing her. Mumi intervened, asking Tomo for an explanation. It turned out that Mio had discovered anime in Mumi's memories and become an instant fan. They were now arguing about the superiority of anime versus historical dramas. Mumi, amused by their childish quarrel, allowed them to continue watching, but with the stern warning not to fight over it again. That night, as Mumi prepared for bed, he noticed only 2 beds were available for the 3 of them. When he asked Tomo and Mio to share, they instead challenged him to choose one of them to share with. Unwilling to make such a decision, Mumi opted to sleep in a chair. The following morning, Mumi and Hazel discussed the creation of the medicine. As they prepared to leave, Lime watched them from afar, whispering instructions for an attack to his companions. Mumi and Hazel arrived at the Rembrandt Trading Company, where Hazel was filled with apprehension. The company was well known in the city, and he feared upsetting them. Morris, the butler, escorted them to the lab. Hazel was surprised by the simplicity of the recipe, but was informed that extracting fluid from ruby eyes was the most challenging part. As Hazel began gathering magic for the process, Mumi grew irritated by the excessive mention of the goddess in his incantation. He also found Hazel's method inefficient, and discreetly assisted him. Hazel inquired about the modified method, and Morris explained that they were using ruby eyes as a substitute for the rare ambrosia flower, which the bees fed on. This sparked an idea in Mumi's mind, to make the flowers a specialty of his company, should he manage to acquire them. Hazel soon produced a bottle of ambrosia, which Morris promptly took to Patrick. While Morris was away, they managed to create 2 more potions. However, upon his return, Morris slammed the door, causing Hazel to drop one of the bottles. Mumi reacted quickly, catching it just before it hit the ground. Morris led them to Patrick, who was injured. He had tried to give the ambrosia to his wife, but she had reacted violently. It took several guards to restrain her, leaving Patrick battered and bruised. The atmosphere grew heavy as Patrick described his wife's worsening condition. He revealed that she had been plagued by a seemingly innocuous fever that had inexplicably escalated, robbing her of her sanity. Despair filled his voice as he recounted how he had believed the ambrosia would be their salvation, only to have his hopes shattered. Mumi, deeply moved by Patrick's anguish, offered to help. He proposed personally administering the potion to his wife, assuring Patrick that he could restrain her, even if it meant resorting to force. Patrick was skeptical, citing Mumi's seemingly low level, but both Hazel and Morris vouched for his extraordinary capabilities. With renewed hope, Mumi devised a plan. He used the enticing scent of the ambrosia to lure Patrick's wife out, then expertly employed judo techniques to immobilize her, as Patrick tearfully poured the life-saving elixir down her throat. A hush fell over the room. Miraculously, her eyes regained their clarity, and her violent tremors subsided. Overwhelmed with joy and relief, Patrick administered the ambrosia to his daughters, who also made miraculous recoveries. He expressed his heartfelt gratitude to Mumi and even the goddess, much to Mumi's chagrin. Leaving Hazel to refine the remaining potions, Mumi stepped outside to reunite with Tomo and Mio. However, their reunion was cut short as a group of assailants launched a surprise attack. Mumi gracefully evaded their blows, while Tomo and Mio, eager to assess their adversary's strength, intentionally took the hits head-on. The attackers were easily outmatched. Lion, the leader, recognized the futility of their assault and attempted to persuade Tomo and Mio to join his ranks. Tomo remained unyielding, but Mio, ever curious, inquired about their compensation. Lime, one of the attackers, offered her 10 gold coins, and Mio feigned agreement, much to Tomo's annoyance. This act, however, was a ruse orchestrated by Mumi. He had learned from the past, and didn't want Tomo and Mio to repeat their destructive tendencies. He calmly instructed Tomo to handle the situation, and she swiftly dispatched the assailants, showcasing her immense power. Lion, defeated and desperate, begged for mercy. Tomo, sensing a flicker of truth in his memories, decided to spare him. To Mumi's surprise, Lon confessed to being the one who had placed a sleeping curse on Patrick's family. Mumi was taken aback, as the curse had been presented as a fatal affliction. Lion explained that he had been approached by a mysterious figure who claimed that adventurers associated with the Rembrandt Company were struggling to find work. The stranger had suggested afflicting Patrick's family with a harmless sleeping curse to compel him to change his ways. Tomo used her mind-reading abilities to confirm Lion's honesty, and they decided to let him go, albeit with Mio taking his gold as a parting gift for her non-participation in the fight. Days later, Lime, filled with remorse, approached Patrick and offered a heartfelt apology. Patrick, his heart softened by the restoration of his family, graciously accepted. The Rembrandt Trading Company was finally free from the curse that had cast a shadow over their lives. His gaze drifted towards the orphanage where he had grown up, a place filled with memories of simpler times. Just then, Tomo arrived, carrying a new sword sent by Mumi as a replacement for Lime's broken blade. Lion confided in her, revealing that he had fallen prey to the stranger's scheme due to a tragic incident. Someone from the orphanage had died due to the Rembrandt Company's actions. His heart ached for the lost life and the guilt he felt for his part in the curse. Tomo, seeing an opportunity, offered Lime a deal. He would become her spy, gathering information from within the city, and in return, she would protect the orphanage. Lion, desperate to atone for his mistakes, eagerly accepted the proposition. Their first mission took them to the Rembrandt Trading Company, where they discreetly observed Patrick and Morris engaged in a hushed conversation. Tomo grew suspicious when she overheard them discussing the potential of Mumi starting his own company. This raised suspicions in Tomo's mind, and she vowed to keep a watchful eye on the Rembrandt Trading Company. Meanwhile, back in the demi-plane, Emma approached Mumi with a pressing issue. The warriors in the demi-plane had become disheartened by their repeated losses against Mumi, Tomo, and Mio. Mio suggested refraining from fighting them for a while to boost their morale, but Tomo strongly opposed this idea, fearing it would make them feel abandoned. Mumi, ever the caring leader, wanted to check on everyone's well-being. He instructed Tomo to meet with the lizard men, and asked Mio to accompany him to the Alki. As they walked with Emma, they overheard a group of orcs discussing their upcoming training session. The orcs expressed their frustration at being unable to even get close to Mumi during combat, while Tomo and Mio intentionally allowed themselves to be hit. On their way, they encountered Tomo, who reported a similar situation with the lizard men. Mumi noticed a lack of communication and information sharing between the different races, Emma explained that each race preferred to keep their combat techniques secret. However, Mumi saw an opportunity for growth and proposed a special training session to assess everyone's strengths. The lizardmen and orcs gathered, each side sending their most skilled warrior into the ring. The ensuing battle was intense, with both fighters showcasing impressive power and skill. Mumi was impressed by their abilities, but maintained a stoic expression, as Tomo had instructed. Ultimately, the orcs emerged victorious, but Tomo remained unimpressed, bluntly calling both warriors weaklings. When questioned about their perceived weakness, the orc explained that although they seemed feeble to Tomo, the match was a significant challenge for them. Tomo, however, insisted that they had not yet reached their full potential. Mumi urged her to be more encouraging, but Tomo remained firm, emphasizing the importance of their strength and reliability. In a world where they couldn't accurately gauge their abilities by fighting against Mumi, Tomo, or Mio. Meanwhile, the guild's receptionist laments the shortage of skilled adventurers, many of whom have departed or fallen in battle. He implores Makoto to train others, and Makoto readily suggests a group of eager adventurers who could benefit from Tomo's guidance. Tomo, however, is hesitant to train Toa and her companions. She is haunted by Makoto's reaction upon meeting Toa, convinced that the young woman bears an uncanny resemblance to someone from his past life. Fearing any disruption to their bond, Tomo resolves to swiftly elevate the group's strength and independence. The training commences with a perilous encounter against a swarm of shadow tails. The group's initial strategy falters, forcing Tomo to intervene and save them from defeat. She berates them for their poor planning and proceeds to impart basic tactics. Hazel, a skilled mage, is instructed to craft a trap using water and earth magic, while Louisa, an archer, seeks a vantage point with a clear view. Hazel then infuses the mud with poison, creating a deadly snare. The unsuspecting shadow tails charge into the trap, their movements hindered by the toxic sludge. Louisa seizes the opportunity, her arrows finding their mark with deadly precision. Those who escape her barrage are swiftly dispatched by Nina's brute strength and To's stealthy assassinations. Tomo commends their success, emphasizing the effectiveness of this strategy, which allows Hazel to unleash his offensive magic without the burden of healing, save for Nina. Inspired by their victory, Tomo declares their next mission to conquer another nest on their own. She encourages them to push their limits, regardless of their level, and to prove their worth as the best. Returning to the guild, Tomo informs the receptionist of her success, having completed the task of training a new generation of adventurers. Tomo confidently assigned the daunting task of clearing the Shadowtail nests to To and her fledgling team. The guild receptionist was taken aback, doubting their capabilities. However, their triumphant return, bearing trophies from not one, but 2 nests, silenced any skepticism. Meanwhile, Makoto dispatched Mio on a vital mission to the Tenak forest, seeking the elusive ambrosia flower. He envisioned this rare find as the cornerstone of their burgeoning business. His next stop was Patrick's shop, where he inquired about renting a storefront. Patrick, intrigued, questioned why Makoto wouldn't simply purchase his own establishment. Makoto divulged a startling truth, learned from the Merchant Guild's receptionist. Shop owners in the Ion Kingdom were often coerced into spying for the government. Patrick, ever resourceful, proposed a solution: a neutral city, unaffiliated with any nation, where Makoto could operate freely. He even knew someone in this city who might be able to assist. While Makoto's plans unfolded, Mio found herself in the heart of the Tenak forest, unimpressed by the apparent lack of culinary delights. Unbeknownst to her, 2 watchful elves observed a human party venturing into the forest, their expressions filled with displeasure. The party's intrusion was short-lived, swiftly defeated. Aqua, one of the elves, remarked to her partner Aris that their foes were fortunate to be alive, as she wouldn't hesitate to eliminate those who dared touch the sacred Crimson Lotus. Back in the city, a celebration was underway to mark the launch of Makoto's new company. Overcome with shyness, he deferred to Tomo, known for her social prowess, to address the crowd. But Tomo insisted that everyone yearned to hear Makoto's own voice. As Tomo's clown companion offered him a drink, a playful head pat from Makoto sparked joy in Tomo, their connection deepening. Mio, witnessing this exchange, couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. She presented a dish she'd discovered, hoping to share it with Makoto, only to watch him consume it entirely, leaving her disheartened. Tomo, sensing Mio's distress, gently led her away, encouraging her to allow others to bask in Makoto's attention. Alakina, the water spirit, approached Makoto, revealing her newfound ability to maintain her human form for extended periods. She also shared a detailed report of their journey to the Tenak forest, pinpointing the location of the ambrosia flower. However, the forest's dominion by another race prevented her from retrieving a sample. Makoto, concerned for the well-being of his companions, inquired about the other allies. Alakina assured him they had adapted well, thanks to his kindness. Linny, the lizard man, also expressed his gratitude, having honed his skills through joint training with Makoto. He even mentioned receiving unarmed combat instruction from Tomo, a revelation that worried Makoto, who didn't want everyone to emulate her fighting style. Bayon, the blacksmith, affirmed their contentment within the demi-plane, considering it a paradise where their needs were met. He enjoyed crafting weapons for his friends, but also yearned to explore the weaponry of the outside world. Makoto, recognizing his passion, granted Bayon the opportunity to work in their new shop. An orc then introduced himself as the guide for adventurers in Mirage City, a bustling hub for trading goods, unique to the demi-plane. Makoto thanked him for his service, and the orc was delighted to be of assistance. Suddenly, the crowd erupted in a cacophony of voices, all vying for Makoto's attention. Mio confided in Tomo her disappointment at being unable to deliver the report about the ambrosia flower and its guardians. Tomo counseled patience, stressing the importance of gathering more information before acting. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted when Makoto's presence vanished from their senses, leaving them deeply worried. Moments later, his presence returned, and they rushed to his side, finding him engrossed in archery practice. Mio, overcome with relief, embraced him tearfully. Makoto, puzzled by her reaction, explained his technique, emptying his mind to focus on the target. Tomo, observing this, realized that he was essentially flickering his consciousness in and out of existence with each shot, a feat typically associated with the dead. Mio's concern deepened as she noted that this ability hinted at a brush with death. Makoto reassured them, downplaying the significance of his practice. However, Tomo sensed a profound change within him. His mana capacity had surged, a phenomenon unheard of in normal circumstances. She theorized that his repeated experiences of death and rebirth had unlocked a hidden potential, elevating his mana to near divine levels. This revelation carried grave implications. The demi-plane itself had expanded as a result, and if the goddess were to discover this, it could spell disaster. They resolved to suppress Makoto's mana, safeguarding their sanctuary. The following day, Makoto ventured out to procure supplies for his store, mentally drained from the inability to practice archery and Mio's persistent advances. Lost in thought, he was jolted back to reality when a bag belonging to a demi-human went flying towards him. Returning it to its owner, he caught a glimpse of the demi-human's face, noticing an uncanny resemblance to himself. Before he could ponder this further, a girl began flirting with him, and he found himself in the heart of a red light district. Just as things were about to escalate, Tomo and Mio intervened, whisking him away to safety, their anger simmering beneath the surface. As Tomo and Mio questioned Makoto's loyalty, wondering if they weren't enough for him, he, flustered and embarrassed, couldn't bring himself to admit they were like family. Instead, he dismissed their concerns, claiming his actions had nothing to do with them. This only fueled their fury, leading to a chaotic scene of torn clothes and a hasty escape through a mist gate. Later, Emma found Makoto perched on a tree, surrounded by the telltale signs of a spider-webbed retreat. Understanding his predicament, she informed him that his protective gear was ready. Eager to test it, Makoto hurried to Rugu and was delighted with the results. However, Mio soon arrived, apologizing profusely for the previous night's events. Makoto reassured her, but firmly requested she not repeat such actions. The conversation shifted to the ambrosia flowers and their mysterious guardians. Makoto, fearing Mio's impulsive nature, insisted on accompanying her to the Tenak forest. They cautiously made their way through the forest, aware of being followed. Upon discovering the ambrosia flowers, Makoto marveled at their pristine condition, suspecting someone was tending to them. A flashback of holding his sister's hand flooded his mind, prompting him to ask Mio to hold his, citing the slippery terrain. Mio, overjoyed, accepted, but their moment was interrupted by the sudden appearance of Aqua and Eris. The tension escalated as a human party arrived, intent on stealing the flowers. The forest guardians mistook them all for thieves. Ice unleashed her ice magic, and the human girl, recognizing Makoto from their previous encounter, questioned his inaction. Makoto effortlessly deflected Ice's attack and then her flaming arrows, showcasing his mastery of defensive Kai. As Mio's anger reached a boiling point, Tomo telepathically reached out to Makoto, offering her assistance if he fulfilled certain conditions. Allow her to craft a katana and cultivate rice, distract the adventurers so she could open a mist gate and transport them to Mirage City, and appease Mio with her favorite food. Makoto, desperate, agreed to her terms. He skillfully herded the adventurers into the mist gate, and then offered his blood to Mio, restoring her to her senses. Mio, in turn, used her dark magic to absorb the elves' mana, halting their attacks. Makoto assured them of his peaceful intentions, and requested an audience with their leader. They were led to a hidden village, shielded by a familiar magic barrier. The village elders and their representative, Neil, a self-proclaimed forest ogre, greeted them. Mio was surprised, having assumed they were elves. Neil's son, Adano, clarified that they were indeed different from elves, despite their name change. The elders explained that elves needed the forest to survive, while the forest ogres protected it. However, Adano questioned how long they could remain in hiding, as the dragon's barrier weakened. Makoto introduced himself as a merchant seeking medicinal ingredients, but his immense strength raised suspicions. After a tense interrogation, Aqua and Aris apologized and requested a meeting with their master, Mundo. Mundo arrived with a dramatic entrance, breaking through a wall to greet Makoto. He shook Makoto's hand, but Mio, seeing their prolonged handshake, grew jealous and sent him flying. Makoto, ever resourceful, tasked Mio with spying on Adano and Mundo. Excited by the prospect of espionage, she delved into his memories for guidance. Her findings were troubling. Mundo was possessed by an unknown entity, and Adano was in contact with demons. Makoto, alarmed, instructed Mio to return to the demi-plane and switch places with Tomo, as he needed to confirm something with her. The elves prepared a feast for Makoto, but he witnessed a heated argument between Mundo and Adano. Suddenly, a skeletal monster emerged from Mundo's body, slaying Adano. Makoto confronted the creature, noting its life-draining abilities and the deliberate sacrifice of Adano due to his demonic connections. Drawing upon his gaming knowledge, Makoto identified the monster as a lich. The lich attacked, but Makoto's resistance to status effects rendered its spells useless. Mio, back by his side, unleashed her dark magic, absorbing the lich's mana and overwhelming it. Tomo arrived and opened a mist gate, allowing Makoto to capture the lich for further interrogation. Makoto's victory astonished the elves, who revealed their sinister plan to kill him after the feast. Horrified, Tomo confronted Neil, who initially failed to recognize her. She reminded him of her role in creating the mist barrier that protected their village. Neil, realizing his mistake, quickly alerted the others to Tomo's true identity, but she urged them to bow before Makoto instead. Mio's jealousy flared at Makoto's use of Tomo's power, but Tomo clarified that it was a testament to their deep trust. Shiki, the newly contracted lich, explained that Makoto could potentially harness any of his servant's powers, though it would require time and practice. Tomo emphasized the crucial role of trust between master and servant, revealing that in moments of crisis, a servant's power might manifest within their master. This explanation sparked a playful rivalry between Mio and Tomo, each vying to be closer to Makoto. Meanwhile, Makoto discussed plans for Mirage City with Emma. He envisioned a protective wall encircling the city, safeguarding its vulnerable residents and children. He also proposed utilizing lizardmen for patrols, and suggested that the Alis take turns posing as adventurers within the city to gather valuable information. The dwarves then briefed Makoto on their plans for waste management in the warehouse. They emphasized their commitment to immediate disposal and stringent safety measures. After offering condolences to the grieving parents of the deceased orc, Makoto met with his orc friend, expressing his remorse. The orc, however, reminded him that he had saved their village, and pledged their unwavering loyalty in return. Despite this, Makoto remained burdened by guilt, vowing to make amends. Patrick then shared information about the neutral town of Rosard Academy, presenting a map that startled Makoto with its uncanny resemblance to Japan. Eager to explore this familiar landscape, Makoto decided to embark on a journey. Before departing, he revealed his true face to the others, removing his mask. They were shocked, but Patrick reaffirmed his trust in Makoto, highlighting his unwavering love for his family. Even after they were transformed by a curse, Makoto, though slightly offended by the comparison, appreciated Patrick's sentiment. Mio and Tomo questioned why Makoto was only taking Shiki on his trip. He explained that Shiki's expertise as a former human researcher would prove invaluable, and he trusted Shiki not to cause any trouble. Makoto confessed that he had been content with his limited understanding of the world, but the recent events had ignited a desire to learn more about their world and his own past. He apologized for his sudden departure, but gifted Tomo his memories of swordsmanship and Mio, his memories of firearms as a parting gesture. Tomo promised to persuade the forest ogres to relocate to the demi-plane, while Mio pledged to oversee Mirage City and their shop in his absence. As Makoto and Shiki prepared to leave, a sudden teleportation whisked Makoto away to an unknown location, where he was ambushed by two adventurers, Sophia and Lancer. He deftly evaded their initial attack, but lost a few fingers in the process. Makoto, disoriented and confused, recalled hearing the goddess's voice before being teleported. Sophia, mistaking him for a demi-human, questioned his identity as the goddess's hero. Makoto, resorting to defensive kai and barriers, struggled to fend off Sophia's relentless attacks. His injuries worsened, forcing him to use a bow ring to staunch the bleeding. He learned of the ongoing war between humans and demons, and that his attackers had sided with the demons. Lancer urged Sophia to eliminate Makoto, believing him to be a hindrance to the demon army's advance. Makoto considered retreating to the demi-plane, but knew he would be pursued. He unleashed a rapid-fire barrage, then used his concealing kai to attempt an escape. But crystal walls materialized around him, trapping him. He shattered the walls with barriers on his feet, only to be cornered by Sophia and Lancer. Sophia, underestimating his combat skills but wary of his strange abilities. Makoto, exasperated, insisted he was a mere merchant seeking to avoid conflict. Unconvinced, Sophia activated a ring that nullified his supposed protection. Makoto clarified that he had no divine aid, revealing Sophia's ring to be useless. The truth emerged. Sophia was the renowned dragon hunter, and Lancer was a dragon himself. Makoto reiterated his peaceful intentions, but they remained skeptical, left with no choice. He removed his mana-absorbing rings and unleashed a powerful blast of strengthening kai, sending them flying. Switching to investigative kai, he tracked them through the dust and unleashed a special dwarven arrow, splitting into multiple projectiles that pierced their defenses. He followed up with a water arrow, catching Lancer off guard with his superior water magic affinity, freezing the dragon in place. Sophia seized the opportunity to strike, aiming for Makoto's head, but he narrowly dodged her blade. She attacked again with all her might, but Makoto parried with his arrow, shattering her sword. Impressed by the dwarves' craftsmanship, he was caught off guard when Sophia grabbed him, and Lancer conjured crystal platforms in the sky, enabling them to launch a relentless aerial assault. Sophia, confident in their victory, landed, believing Makoto was finished. But he surprised her by launching fireballs that destroyed the crystal platforms, raining fire upon both the demon and human armies below. Using the remaining power in his mana rings, Makoto fired a colossal water arrow, creating a massive pillar that descended upon the battlefield. As the rings shattered, the impact generated a tremendous explosion, leaving a new lake in its wake. Makoto disappeared into thin air. Sophia and Lancer, battered but alive, believed Makoto had perished in the blast. Sophia swore vengeance if he were to resurface. Meanwhile, Makoto awoke in the demi-plane, his injuries healed, with Tomo and Mio sleeping beside him. He recounted his harrowing encounter, and Shiki deduced that the goddess had manipulated Makoto into fighting the demon army. Mio was outraged, but Makoto blamed himself for his carelessness. Determined to prevent further divine interference, he resolved to study at the academy with Shiki to enhance his mana control. Tomo insisted on accompanying them, fearing the goddess's meddling, but Makoto, recognizing their value as his trump card, wanted to keep them hidden. Tomo then introduced Makoto to her new clone, Como, created from one of his rings. She assured him that Como wouldn't suffer the same fate as her predecessor. Mio, hearing Tomo refer to Como as their child, grew jealous once again. Meanwhile, the forest ogres had successfully relocated to the demi-plane, and Tomo planned to prepare them for the dimensional ranking. Their shop in the city opened its doors, welcoming a customer seeking repairs for his blade. The customer was initially dissatisfied with the demi-human employees, but Bayon, the skilled blacksmith, expertly repaired the blade. Mio demonstrated its sharpness, accidentally nicking the customer's cheek, but ice swiftly healed the wound. The impressive display of craftsmanship and service left everyone, including Patrick, in awe of Makoto's shop. News reached Makoto of the unintended consequences of his battle with Sophia and Lancer. Both the human and demon armies had suffered casualties. He realized that other heroes must have been present, and wondered if their paths would cross in the future. At the guild, the receptionist was amazed that Makoto, an F-rank adventurer, had completed a special mission. Makoto noticed the slime hunting quest, but couldn't accept it due to its B-rank requirement. He overheard a girl urgently requesting help, claiming that the moon over the ruined castle, a name that resonated with him from a song in his past life, was attacking. The receptionist explained that the guild was understaffed and couldn't handle a bandit group with over 100 members. The girl, visibly distraught, questioned why this was happening to them, despite their prayers to the goddess. Some adventurers mocked her faith, claiming prayers were useless, but the girl believed the goddess was angry because of people like them. As the adventurers began harassing the girl, she fled in tears. Makoto, walking down the street, realized he was being followed. Using his kai, he discovered the adventurers were pursuing the girl and her companion. Determined to help, Makoto swiftly defeated the men following him, sending them flying into the harassers. One of them drew a knife, but Makoto effortlessly disarmed and subdued him. He then healed the girl's companion using his healing kai. The girl, assuming he was a demi-human due to his appearance, expressed her gratitude. Makoto corrected her, revealing he was human despite his unusual looks. He introduced himself, and the girl, Lana, introduced herself and her werewolf companion, Ito. Makoto was surprised to learn that Ito was a werewolf, as he had always imagined them to be large and fearsome. Makoto questioned why Lana couldn't wait for the guild to deal with the bandits. Lana revealed that the bandits had tortured their village's strongest fighter, Barkley, and killed his wife. The villagers were now faced with a difficult decision: comply with the bandits' demands or risk annihilation. Ito regained consciousness and asked Lana if the guild would help, but she shook her head. He apologized for his inability to protect her. Makoto offered to escort them back to their village, despite its remote location. He assured them of his speed, and grabbing them, leaped from tree to tree, swiftly reaching their destination. Lana asked Makoto to wait while she explained the situation to the villagers. Left alone with Ito, Makoto inquired why he wasn't part of the village. Ito, surprised that Makoto could speak their language, explained that while Lana and a few villagers were kind to him, the rest would never accept a demi-human like him. Makoto, using his investigative kai, discovered that the bandits had harmed several villagers. Ito, impressed by Makoto's keen senses, revealed that he too possessed a heightened sense of smell. He then confronted Ito, accusing him of feigning unconsciousness to avoid facing Lana after putting her in danger. He encouraged Ito to protect Lana if he truly cared for her. Makoto's investigative kai detected something else amiss, drawing him towards the mountains. Ito tried to stop him, but Makoto realized that Ito also sensed the presence there. Ito, unsure of Makoto's motives, admitted he disliked the bandits using the name of his favorite song. Moved by Makoto's kindness, Ito wondered how he could repay him. Makoto mentioned his trading company, which employed several demi-humans, and requested that they be treated well if they ever visited the village.